welcome to the beginning of another run of what we call Side Krisis. My last batch of these, we did 5 episodes on the Sega Saturn, which I believe today is more beloved than it was back in its original life, which is kind of funny how those things work out, but that is the way it goes. Feedback on those has been really good. It's pretty fun to sit here and kind of go nuts on some of my favorite video game systems, playing my favorite video games on those systems. Saturn's definitely in there. So moving on, this next run that I'm going to do something a little bit more well-known, something that makes a whole lot of sense, and something that's a lot more popular than the Saturn was back in its day. And certainly I would argue more popular today as well for retro gaming enthusiasts. First, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, I am wearing another totally stupid shirt, as promised. And in fact, I also have a totally stupid hat that I may or may not wear. Let me just take a look at that. Oh yeah, that looks really dumb. Perfectly stupid. I think we're going to keep it. And it's kind of on brand, because today we're going to the 90s, and we're going all the way back to the Super Nintendo. So on the table, you see a bunch of stuff. And I'll return to that in a second. A little bit more housekeeping. I did want to just highlight what we'll call, without a shadow of a doubt, a show upgrade. Special shout out to the good Prince for setting us up with this. And I'm not even going to explain anything. I'm just going to let it sing.
I had a blast with Corey.
Absolutely. Every single time I have a blast with Corey. And, you know, if you really think about it, it's
The motto of, oh, the two Corys are Corey and Corey, or Hamster and Felldog.
obviously, that's the motto, and we all know that.
We invented Hamster and Felldog, and it just globally went around the world.
All around the world.
Known.
All around the world, as you well know. And, you know, so the thing about Side Krisis is, as you can tell, stupid shirt, stupid hat. I don't have Uncle Bob here.
You know, go solo for a while. I need to fly alone.
I need to fly alone on these, because if he's here, he's going to say things that anger me, like these graphics are old, or he might say, like, hey, I've never heard of this. I don't have time for that, right? And in fact,
I want my life back! That's what I want!
I want my life back. And that's a big part of, this nostalgic play here. It's just fun to play old systems. I think most of us who are into retro games, that's a big part of it, that's a big hook of it, is kind of mainlining your childhood. And some of us, we grew up with siblings. I grew up with an older sister. She and I shared the Super Nintendo. For other people,
trying to get to be the older brother or the only brother.
Because when you're the only brother, all the video games are for you, and that's where the cash is, obviously. And something like that could be...
There was a big prop room and water guns. It was just a fun atmosphere.
Just a really fun atmosphere all the way around. And that's good. That's a fun thing to do. And because it gives you kind of some calm and some quiet, so that you can really just get down to it.
I'm trying to get in the habit of, picking up a book, learning how to write my feelings down. Not my feelings, but my thoughts about things.
Thoughts about things. I have a lot of thoughts about the Super Nintendo. And we'll see. Maybe by the end of this, some of you will have this attitude.
You know what? It's time for me to go home. This is enough. I've had enough.
And some of you might not. Some of you might think aggressively and, kind of take a step back and...
Easy there, compadre. After all the shit that you pulled, I think you can at least hear me out. I mean, I feel like you owe me that.
And I feel like you, the audience, owes me that. Because I went through a lot of trouble here, setting all this up. But, at the end of the day...
My man, Three's Company, Jack Tripper, Furley.
It's all about Furley. Okay, so, with that very important piece of business out of the way, let's get on down to it. So here we go. This is the display. Now, let's start with the main event, right here, is a North American Super Nintendo. Mine is not a super old one. It's not a super recent one. It's right in the middle. So you can tell there's not a whole lot of yellowing going on in the plastic, which is awesome. I very much appreciate that. Some Super Nintendos you see out there are disgusting. They look like someone had rubbed dirt on them, but really that's just like a byproduct of the plastic, and as it ages, it just turns more and more yellow. I've seen Super Nintendos that look like it was a chain smoker for 50 years, and it's kind of gross. Okay, so over here is a Super Nintendo Mini that's next to my main unit, just because of the just for the fun of it. Look how dinky and cute it is. When this bad boy came out, which followed the NES Classic, there was a huge run on these. They're super hard to get now. Pretty much eBay's the only recourse. Nintendo discontinued them. But I would say, so it supports HDMI, as we'll turn. We can show the back of this bad boy. Supports HDMI, so it's really, really easy to put together. Comes with 25 really good games, including Star Fox 2, which is cool. And let's just say super easy to hack and add more games on. But you didn't hear that from me, the singer of Chumbawamba. Back to the table. So we've got all these games here. So in the Saturn video, I played 5 games, and I do plan on returning to the Saturn to play 5 more somewhere down the road. I think I'm not going to do all of these. Some of these are just here to show off and to talk a little bit about, but there are 6 mainline North American Super Nintendo games that I'm definitely going to be playing. Before we get to that, I do want to talk a little bit about the release of the Super Nintendo. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to de-Chumbawamba there and just go full bucket hat stupidity. So the Japanese Super Nintendo, right here, Super Famicom, that bad boy comes out in November of 1990. Which, if you're old like myself and Robbie, you obviously have pretty vivid memories of 1990. And at the time, the NES is it's huge. It's the biggest thing in the world. Famicom in Japan, no difference there. But in North America, the 1990 is probably like the peak year of the NES, I would say, pretty safely. And you've got things like The Wizard in theaters. You've got the Super Mario Brothers Super Show on TV, Nintendo Power, selling gangbusters. But in Japan, the end of 1990 is when you get to finally play Super Mario Brothers 4, or Super Mario World, as it was later known to be. So our unit here, the North American one, that doesn't come out until August of 1991. And I remember, for me, seeing commercials for it. And I was, I think a 7-year-old kid at the time, very into video games, but not really fully understanding what it meant. Super Nintendo, what does that even mean? And I remember seeing reports on the news with people talking about well, what is it? Is it just more Nintendo? Like, what am I supposed to do? And all that stuff. Because we didn't really... There wasn't a video game generation. There wasn't a cycle yet. This is kind of the first one. Obviously, you had Atari kind of bumble around from the 2600 to the 5200, but it's like a different beast. It's a crash. There's a video game crash there, or console video game crash there. There's all kinds of stuff. It's different. When the NES is literally the coolest thing in town, and everyone's paying attention to it, and there's a lot of fun to be had with it, announcing another system was a much bigger deal. So those commercials where you had the deep voice movie trailer guy doing the "now you're playing with power, super power," that kind of stuff really stood out. But I didn't really get to play it until a friend of mine first got it, and then it was just oh, okay, this is completely different. This is the real deal, and this is essentially arcade quality graphics at home, which was at that time that's what it was all about. It was about having arcade graphics at home, and now the Super Nintendo is doing that. So the Sega Genesis is already on the market, but I think it's pretty, I don't want to say niche, all the way niche, but I think that it skewed older. So my personal recollection, pre-Sonic, I didn't really know much of what it was. On a family trip to visit some friends in Northern California, the kid who was around my age, he had a Genesis, and he had some really cool games like Toe Jam and Earl, and Splatterhouse 2. Of course, Sonic the Hedgehog was out. So at that time, I had a Super Nintendo, and I thought it was as good as it was going to get. And I would rent a lot of games, but I didn't own a lot of games. I only had Mario World, the pack-in game. But to be exposed to the Genesis and kind of lay victim to the marketing at that time, kind of changed things. But that's more down the road. When we talk about the Super Nintendo, I think it's important to bring up that of the two formats here. So again, you got North American, you got Japanese. What's the difference? Well, inside, nothing. They're the exact same thing. But as you can see, there is a different cartridge slot in each one. And so this is a Super Famicom cartridge here. So you can kind of see rounded. Here's the bottom of it. Oh, there's some of that gross yellowing that we were talking about. See that? Isn't that just, ugh, what are they doing? But yeah, that just comes with age. Anyway, the bottom you can see rounded. So it kind of looks like almost like a Nintendo 64 cartridge. North American, you've got more rectangular, and of course you see these notchy deals. There's indentations on the back, and then you've got these in the front. So the way to mitigate that, back in the day, back before there were things like, one of these guys, the EverDrive, which I cannot recommend enough. This is the cheapy one that's now almost 10 years old. But some of the stuff you can do with the newer EverDrives are insane. We're talking about like adding CD soundtracks to existing games, stuff like that. Really, really cool stuff. Homebrew games. There's like a 4-player new Super Mario Brothers looking game that's done from the ground up, all homebrew. And you can only play that thing using the SC2 SNES, which is like an advanced one of these EverDrives here. But so this guy, it's got the notches and it's rounded. So you can play it in a Super Famicom and you can play it in a Super Nintendo. So why is that a big deal? Well, friends, if you know a little thing about these old games, turns out they're not going down in price, they're going up. And it's been that way for quite a while. So the advantage, Super Famicom is cheaper than the North American Super Nintendo. And it's got to a point where it's kind of like a lot. Some of these games on the table here, which I've owned for years, are now ridiculously expensive. So it's like, I'm really glad I bought them when I bought them. And I have kept them in the collection. I sold a lot of Super Nintendo games over the years, going back to when I was a teenager, real hard up for a singular N64 game, which I think I told that story on the show before. I wanted Turok the Dinosaur Hunter pretty bad. And I made that trade, and right when I did it, I kind of thought about this.
I want my wife back! That's what I want!
Yeah, because that was a huge mistake. I sold it was like 30 Super Nintendo games to play one very foggy, yet good for the time, in my opinion, first-person shooter on the N64. But, mistakes were made. So, anyway, that's more or less all I wanted to... Oh, I forgot to mention this thing. So, Game Genie, right? So, back in the day, if you wanted to play Super Famicom cartridges on your North American Super Nintendo, which was a thing that you would want to do, because they were just dirt cheap. This is an option. You could still do it. Game Genies aren't super expensive, but on the inside, let's see if I can show it here. Get some light in there. So if you can see in the left and the right there, these are little white dots. So what I did is I took a file, sanded down those pegs, so that this Game Genie can work with Super Famicom cartridges, like so that you don't have to be a total sicko and own both of these. But, it's also fun to own both of them. And of course, this still works with North American, because you only take away plastic, not add any when you do that method. So that is one way to cheaply and effectively play Super Famicom cartridges on a North American Super Nintendo. Okay, so let's talk about some games. There's just too fucking many. There's too many really, really good games on the Super Nintendo. So this was actually kind of difficult. I wanted to do all authentic cartridges. I have the EverDrive here just in case I get a little froggy. But we're gonna go through. We're gonna play some. I think that I'm gonna start with a game that is very near and dear to my heart. It's something that my older sister and I played all of the time. And we're gonna be playing that on this. This, dear friends, is, oh, get that focus. There we go. This is the ASCII pad. You see all those turbo switches. Slow-mo. That is, without a doubt, my favorite controller ever made. I love this thing. A fun little side story. My partner on this, my co-host, who's, again, not here, because I will not stand for any eye rolling or any negative thoughts at all about old video games that I cherish. But he came over to my apartment way back in the day, and I said, hey, we're gonna play some Super Nintendo. I handed him this controller, and he looked at me like I had turds hanging out of my mouth, and he said, I don't want that third-party trash. And a little piece of me died on the inside, to be honest. And I had to sit down and gently tell him, friend, you've got the wrong impression on this particular controller. And we left it at that. So let me go here. We're going to load it up. Let's go for it. We're going to do Actraiser, Enix's Actraiser. Pop that bad boy in. Let's go ahead and hit power. Booyah. Okay, let's do a little sound, just a bit. Oh, that's going to be punchy. Let's turn that bad boy down, like so. I'm going to appear right here on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Stupid bucket hat fully in tow. And let's just start a new game. Oh, let me make it, I'm going to make this big for me, for my enjoyment. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, let's do a new game. Create a name for yourself. So this is one of those Super Nintendo games where the B button is the confirm button. Not a big fan. Not a big fan of that. What do we think about that, Corey?
I had a blast with Corey.
Okay. Yeah, I could see why you would think that. Yeah, this just makes... Oh, whoa, what are we doing? Hold on. No. This is going to make a lot more sense. And... oh, yes. Look at that. It fits perfectly. Hamster. Okay. So, yeah, I'm gonna pop that down a little more. Because, might be a little annoying. So, okay. What is Actraiser? Most of you who are watching this about Super Nintendo probably know what this game is. It came out in the early part of the Super Nintendo. If you are unfamiliar with this certified masterpiece, it is a hybrid action game slash like SimCity type, like a very rudimentary SimCity like builder type thing. So this is the map. This weird cloud cathedral thing that I'm moving around here is kind of like the base of operations. I'm just kind of showing this off. This is some Mode 7, which is synonymous with the Super Nintendo. It's a really cool sprite scaling feature. When I go to fight in the action stage down here, you're going to see some of that in full effect. But before let's do message speed. Let's go fast. Very good. That's a must. Okay, so in this menu, we're going to select fight and fight monsters. And it says, Sir Hamster, if we destroy all monsters in this land, people will be able to live here again? Absolutely. Let's check in. What do we think about these monsters?
You know what? It's time for me to go home. This is enough. I've had enough.
Totally agree. Let's do it. So we're going to go down, and this is that Mode 7. Look at that. This is a big-ass deal. Like, there was nothing that looked like this at the time. And there are so many Super Nintendo games that take advantage of that thing. So piece of hardware, a chip inside cartridges called the DSP chip is what made that possible. Okay, so this part of Actraiser is the part where when my sister and I would play this game, she would basically hand me the controller and I would do all the action stuff, and then she would do the city building stuff. Occasionally, she would want to get through the action stuff, and it would usually end in frustration. And vice versa. I would try to do when I was a little kid, I would try to do the city building stuff. Couldn't really fully get my head wrapped around that. My sister is 3 years older than me, so as a duo, as a tag team, I think it worked out really, really good. I gotta be careful here. Oh God! This is just the first level. I don't want to blow it. The soundtrack to this game, which I do have a little turned down, is done by Yuzo Koshiro, who is, golly, kind of like the biggest name, kind of like the big dog in video game soundtracks, really, when you think about it, especially in this era. He did this game, he did Soul Blazer, the Streets of Rage games, countless other games. The man is an absolute genius composer and could get the best out of these ships that really, frankly, anyone could. Okay, so the trick to this guy is cower in fear and duck a lot. Oh God, avoid that lightning. Go in, get a couple, back off. Cower, be a proud coward, go in, and always duck and get a few. Oh God, more lightning. If you go all the way to the left there, the lightning almost never gets you. Oh, okay. Almost there. Now, I don't have any of the turbo features on the ASCII pad turned on right now. I feel like it's not very necessary. Okay. So with that, we get past Fillmore Act 1, the very beginning of this glorious game. And now we're going to transition to the city building part. So, you know, SimCity for Super Nintendo is also one of my favorite games. I might be playing that in this batch of Side Crisis. I don't know. But that's the problem. With Super Nintendo, it's really difficult. So you might see SimCity, you might not. You probably won't because it's in the other room and I can't be bothered to get up. I mean, have you seen my hat? My hat totally screams asshole, and assholes are lazy. Okay, so the people in this temple are like the villagers, almost like the politicians of the land. And they're telling me that they want to expand their town, but they have bushes in the way. So we're going to use lightning, and we're going to move this cursor above these bushes so that our townspeople can build. As simple as that. So in the top right of the screen, you see SP, and I have 0 out of 20. So now I actually need to get more of that, and the way to do that is to kill enemies. You also, oh, by the way, I should point out that I'm this adorable little cherub angel with a cute little butt. Probably one of the real calling cards of Actraiser is how adorable this character is. And you just blast arrows. There is RPG stuff in here. So like as your population grows, as the city grows, you get more health points. Part of the story, you unlock different magical spells by doing different things in these town building portions of the game. So it has that RPG feel. And this is, of course, well before RPGs fully took off in America. But the Super Nintendo plays a huge role. I would argue, I mean, like everyone, Final Fantasy VII was a giant thing. And it's kind of disingenuous not to give that game the full credit that it deserves in terms of exploding JRPGs into the video game market in the West. However, Super Nintendo did it before. And for my money, to me, the genre, it's like the golden era of the genre is on the Super Nintendo. Games like Final Fantasy III, Chrono Trigger, which Chrono Trigger is my pound for pound favorite video game of all time. Those are all Super Nintendo games, baby. Okay, so now they're saying, hey, we learned how to seal monsters' lairs. And that's what we see there. We're doing that. The townspeople are happy. Okay, so we've sealed that monster's lair without our help. It appears someone has found something. And this is another way you get upgrades and other items in the game, is they find stuff. But then you have to go into the menu and go to offerings here and take the offering. It's not like an automatic thing. So we got a bomb. This bomb, you use it on the building portions of the game, and it will kind of clear the screen out of enemies. All right, let's build. Let's go after more monsters' lairs. Right now, that's our main focus, is to seal up those monster lairs. The monsters do cause damage. They burn down the little huts. They affect your population. And you want your population to grow so that you expand, not just the town, obviously, but that's how you unlock the other action parts. And that's how you progress through the game. So it's each area in the land has 2 action acts, Act 1, Act 2. And you have to do the city building stuff to kind of unlock those things. And then once you beat those, then you get to move that Sky Palace into another area. And there's a little bit of back and forth. There's like things in later countries, for lack of a better term, that you have to do and like go back to an otherwise completed area to kind of advance. So there's a little Metroidiness to it, I guess, or you know, RPG for the correct answer. Okay, I also forgot I had my SP regenerate. Oh, let's see if we got another present. Nope, but the civilization level of Fillmore has improved. So that means we can build more shit and have more people live here. These blue assholes. Okay. Now, let's go back this direction. And let's just get that there. And now I'm going to burn down more bushes. That one. And so right here, this area of rocks, that's where we want to focus. That's how you get to the second act. And believe it or not, you have to strike these rocks with some lightning. So we got to level up, level 2, HP goes up a little bit. So the blue life mark, we get 1 extra blue hit point. And the people of Fillmore want to tell me something. So a fire has broken out, and they're telling me to use rain to put out that fire. Oh, good lord. Okay. So here's some rain. God provides. Okay, there we go. Okay. There's much training door. What do you think? Not paying too much attention to that. Because I don't need to, because I've played this game for 33 fucking years. Okay. And lightning. Here we go. And we can do one more as soon as that's done. And that is what we want to do. So we build in this area. I need another lightning. Lightning costs 10, so that one's pretty easy to do. So let's build in this direction. Boom. Boom. My sister and I were pretty obsessive about the building. Like, we would go in and move that arrow, that road maker, in every possible combination, north, south, east, and west, just so that we would have every possible roadway in the game. My sister figured out, too, if you go to areas where you can't advance it anymore but push up and down, you'll get like a tiny little splotch of road that goes nowhere, essentially. But it would allow you to have like another house there, so maximize your population. Which was always fun. It was fun to try to do the most of everything you possibly could do in this game. Okay. More of the people telling me about stuff. See right here, I feel the presence of a magic power radiating from under the big rock below. So this is what we want. This is gonna tell us to destroy that big rock, this one down here. And we will do so. Oh, that's right. I only have 9, I need 10. That bat should do it. Let's blast this rock with some lightning. And then another invitation to speak to the people. And this should be what we're looking for. Oh, this is the offering. Okay, I think this is the spell. Yeah. So let's get that spell. Source of magic is how you use the spells, and then magical fire is the first one. So the spells you use in the action stuff, the action sequences. I'm out of magic power, so I'm just going to build a couple roads and seal up that monsters lair down there. And I can't, honestly, I don't remember if you have to seal all the... There's a month, the blue guys come over here. And we can't do anything about that until we go to Bloodpool and get the ability to build bridges. So, for now, I'm pretty sure you can get Fillmore Act 2 without having to go to Bloodpool. Which is what we're going to work on. You can also, so if you go over these monsters' lairs, I forget what button it is. Is it select? No. Start maybe? Oh, never mind. Town under construction's on the screen. You have to wait. But you can... oh, what is it? No. Anyway, there's some way where you can go above these monsters' lairs and you find out how many monsters are there. And you can kill all the monsters in the monsters' lair. It doesn't seal it up, but it makes it so that no more monsters spawn out of there. I would do that just to do it. Just for the funsies of it, but it's really a stupid way to go. Oh, so the fisherman has a scroll for us. We'll get that in a second here. Okay. Strange bow and arrow. We'll take it. Oh! It says we can, actually, I got bridges here. I don't need to go to Bloodpool yet. That's cool. So let's go over here. And build that bridge. Seal up that last monster's lair. And then that should set us up. That should absolutely set us up. Okay. Coming through. Boom. That's the last of the monsters' lairs. Okay, here we go. Something strange. Yeah, okay, perfect. So he's talking about he can't sleep at night. He's getting visions of some more monsters. And there we go. So this big fissure has appeared. So that means let's go to the Sky Palace. Move the Sky Palace over that fissure. And actually let's select some magic real quick. Just cause. Yep. And that's what we want. And let's go fight some monsters. More Mode 7. Glorious Mode 7. Here we go. Still looks good to me. Still think it's cool. That's never going to change. Okay. So, more action here. The later action stuff is, you know, this game it's never ridiculously hard. It's kind of one of the reasons why I enjoy playing it so much, is I can just turn my brain off. A lot of that just has to do with memorization and repetition. I have played Actraiser a whole lot. But I do think it was a criticism that the game faced. And so when they made Actraiser 2, it's much harder, and it's only action. There is no city building or simulation stuff. It's just all action. And it's a cool game. I like the graphics and sound, and it kind of feels like this stuff. But I really miss building the towns and kind of doing the story elements of Actraiser. To me, that's like, I would say that's my favorite part of Actraiser, because the action it's fine. It's just fine. It's better than fine. It's better than a lot of action games on Super Nintendo, to be honest. But the town building stuff, I think, is just that much better. Even though it is very rudimentary, you got to remember, we're talking 1991, 1992. Not a whole lot of that stuff going around, except for SimCity. So it was new. It was still new and fresh, and something that it seemed like only PCs can do, and now Super Nintendo, or now then. You understand. All right, I'm not gonna go too much further unless I just plow through stuff. Might get to that boss, might not. Boss is coming up somewhat soon. Oh God. Oh no. Okay. This is a stupid jump. Yeah. I mean, we're talking pixel perfect there. So, Enix published Actraiser, but it was developed by Quintet. And they would do a lot of really good Super Nintendo games. So Actraiser, you got Soul Blazer, which is another absolute favorite of mine. Illusion of Gaia was like the sequel to Soul Blazer. That was actually pushed pretty hard by Nintendo. I remember that game came in like a deluxe big box with a free t-shirt, which is kind of cool. And that game is really good too. I like Illusion of Gaia a lot, but for my money, Soul Blazer is the better game. And I do think Actraiser is my favorite of all of the Quartet games. Okay, so here's the boss. Let's do some magic. Magic is pretty devastating on this dude. I just let him hit me, because why not? He's so easy to get a bunch of hits on, as long as you just stay on top of it. And there we go. Done deal. All the way done deal. Okay, so let's do this. We're there. We're here. That's Actraiser. This is Super Nintendo. This is Side Crisis. I'm going to play more Super Nintendo games. This one was a little info front-loaded, just because I wanted to talk about all this stuff that I have right here on the table. Oh yeah, I don't think I mentioned, so this guy, when it came out in America, $199. So adjusted for inflation, it's about 450 bucks. What do consoles cost today? About 450 bucks, 500 bucks. So not a whole lot has changed there. What has definitely changed there is that these games, here, let me grab this guy. So this, focus in there, we go, Chrono Trigger, which we're definitely going to be playing on this series of Side Crisis. 80 bucks. That was an $80 game. Games in this last generation alone just finally crept up to 70 bucks. And for a long time they were 60, and before that they were 50. So, yeah. It's funny, like all the pricing of all this stuff has more or less kind of stayed the same with some very light creeping. So when we complain about inflation, and we should because it sucks, video games is something that isn't super affected by it, as it turns out, which is kind of neat. So anyway, that's episode 1 here of this run of Super Nintendo love. I don't know what I'm going to come back and play next. I'm going to look at what's on the table. Am I going to have this dumb hat on? I don't know. I might. I feel kind of committed to it now. I do think I should probably check in with Corey. Corey, what did you think about playing Actraiser?
I had a blast with Corey.
Okay. I mean, I had a blast with Actraiser. You had a blast with Corey. We all had a blast with Corey. But what do you think? Should we keep going, or?
You know what? It's time for me to go home. This is enough. I've had enough.
Okay. Well, what are you going to do when you go home then?
My man, Three's Company, Jack Tripper.
That's fair.
Furley.
I would also watch Three's Company. So that's going to do it from me and, of course, the Hamster. Thank you so much for watching. We're on Spotify, all that good stuff, per usual. Tell a friend. And, yeah, Super Nintendo, guys. It's just the fucking best.